Jubilee, we are back at it again. We got Wes Moore. I don't know much about Wes Moore, but he's going to be debating Jubilee people. We've seen politicians do this already with Pete Buttigieg and James Tallarico. And in lieu of doing this, it's them getting in front of the populace to set up a potential run. Tallarico set up his Senate run. Buttigieg, I do think he wants to run for president. And Wes Moore has been getting out in the public as well, appearing on Stephen A. Smith's show. I don't know much about him, but definitely someone I have to look into because I guarantee he's going to do his own version of a presidential race. And if we're talking about black people who are going to run for president, other than I was about to say something crazy about Kamala Harris, nothing bad. Definitely inappropriate. But we got Kamala Harris, of course. We got Raphael Warnock, and then we got Wes Moore. So let's see how Wes Moore does in front of the voters. Let's go and react.
Every single one of these people's votes does not matter at all because the money does not flow to their pockets, but the pockets of the oligarchs.
Do you know who does not want us to disengage? The people who came before us. They want us to use our voice. They want us never to lose the power that they fought for.
Why should I be incentivized to vote if...
My first surrounded claim is nothing shapes policy more effectively than your vote.
All right.
Nothing shapes policy more effectively than your vote. I mean, it sounds good. My response to that claim, I think what would shape policy better is if we kind of fix the structure. One of the biggest things on terms of policy that is preventing like ambitious policy to get passed is the stalemate typically in the Senate. Generally, this claim is correct because in order for something to change, you have to vote in a good representative. So not a crazy take.
Hey, if you want to debate this claim, please get to the chair in 3, 2, 1.
Hi, Wes.
How you doing?
I'm Nassim. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, man.
So I kind of want to hear first why you think nothing shapes policy more than your vote.
Because I've seen it firsthand. I have seen how everything is a policy decision in our life. The water we drink is a policy decision. The air we are breathing, that is a policy decision. The neighborhoods we're policed and how we're policed, that everything I have realized and learned is a policy decision. And I think about for my own family, like I don't come from a family that's used to making the policies. I come from a family that's used to suffering the consequences of them. And so I know the policies that are being made in our name, with our money, with our tax dollars, but oftentimes they do not reflect what we actually hope for. And that's why I believe that we have a responsibility to make sure we have the right people in the right seats that are making the right decisions that are actually on our behalf.
So I want to point to a historical example first, the Civil Rights Act of 1964.
Yeah.
And that was kind of come about from a movement rather than necessarily getting to the ballot box. I'm not going to speak for everybody here, but I know for me, I feel that it's more effective to mobilize in the streets or protest in the streets rather than sometimes going out to the ballot box where I don't feel the candidates represent what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
So I think there are other ways of participating in shaping policy rather than just voting.
No, and I think
I mean, that's kind of nonsense. I'll be honest. It's a pretty ignorant way to look at politics. This guy seems like he might be in college, maybe just graduated. You can protest as much as you want. If the right politicians are not in the place of power, they're not going to listen to your protesting. Right? The Republicans right now are fascists. No matter how much you protest, they're not going to change. They might do a little they might back off a little bit. Like, for example, when they finally removed the military out of Minnesota after people died. But in order for serious policy to change for the betterment of the people, the right politicians need to be in office. So it's one effective way to get your voice heard in terms of protesting, but the more effective way is being educated, being aware, advocating for a politician, and getting the right people in office. So a little ignorant. Wes Moore's a politician, so you might play this, carefully to be nice to the voter. But I would call out, I was like, that's a bit ignorant to say. But I understand the sentiment.
very fair point. But also, I think it's also important to remember what was the goal of the civil rights movement, right? The goal of the civil rights movement wasn't just to protest. The goal of the civil rights movement was to get to a civil rights act. Like the reason that people protested, the reason that
Good
people were in the
point.
streets wasn't just because they wanted to blow off steam.
Yeah.
Was because they wanted the elected officials to hear their voice. And so we don't get things like the Civil Rights Act. We don't get the Voting Rights Act. We don't get not just the right to vote, but we don't get like things like the desegregation of schools. We don't get the elimination of policies like separate but equal just by the protest alone. What happened was it forced these politicians to do a better job of actually representing our views. And so that's why I think the protest does matter. Like our voice does matter, but what the protest is actually helping to do, it's helping these politicians to wake up and realize that if you don't do what we are telling you to do, we will remove you from office.
So I hate to be that guy, but the claim specifically.
That was a great rebuttal, because he pointed out very specific policy that in order for society to change, the votes for the representatives or put into power had to ensure that people would listen to those voices and of course pass legislation that adhered to the rights of the minority such as Black people. That was a good rebuttal.
Says nothing shapes policy more. And I don't personally think that the Civil Rights Act of 1964 would have happened without the movement. And that's why I'm arguing that the movement is what really like provoked that to even happen in the first place. Yeah. I guess my question is, how can we feel that candidates today are going to provoke this change and provoke the policies that we want without, you know, kind of protesting, without giving them our vote in the first place?
Well, I think the protest is actually important, right? Because I think the protest is helping people to make sure they hear our voice. But then what also happens is what the protest then does, it leads us and allows us for a greater opportunity to make sure that our voice is heard with the elected officials. What was one of the goals of the civil rights movement, right? One of the biggest impacts of the civil rights movement was the Voting Rights Act, right? The Voting Rights Act was the thing that actually gave people a fundamental and constitutional right to vote. That we could have all the protests in the world, but at the end of the day, you were telling me that I could not select who my elected officials are going to be.
Yeah.
And so
the Voting Rights Act was super influential and super important to ensure people's voices get heard. So they pick the proper officials. They elect the proper officials. Some of the biggest movements in American history is getting the right to vote for women, for minorities. So to undermine the probably most important right for an American citizen, voting, it really shows you what is problematic in society today if people are not being involved into the system. Advocacy is very important. Protesting is very important, but we need to choose the right people who are willing to do what needs to be done for the people. Or else you're going to let MAGA fascists win elections and then do things that are harmful to the people. And ultimately, when you're protesting, when you're making movements in the first place, one of the reasons potentially why they may listen to you is because they want you to re-elect them for the office. Ultimately, politics is all about winning elections, winning your vote. That's what typically a lot of it is. It's unfortunate. It's a power grab. There are some good politicians that are doing it for the people, a little bit more humanitarian, but a lot of them end up just doing what needs to be done so they get reelected. The voting matters most.
One of the goals of the civil rights movement and one of the biggest takeaways from the civil rights movement is actually the Voting Rights Act. The Voting Rights Act would not have happened without protest, but the Voting Rights Act was the thing that gave people the right to vote to make sure we can get elected officials that actually represent our views.
And I'm not going to disagree that voting isn't an integral part of democracy and provoking this policy that we're looking for.
Yeah.
I'm arguing that
you're not listening at this point, and you're just waiting to respond. This is one of the most annoying parts about how people engage with conversations. They're not engaging to listen, to understand, and to learn. They're engaging into conversation to be heard. And I understand people want to feel either important or feel like their issues, the problems that they're seeing in their own personal lives are being addressed, but the reciprocating factor of the conversation can't really address the issues if you're not reciprocating the information that they're telling you in real time. I don't know why this kid, again, it's a kid, so of course, but I don't know why this kid just doesn't understand what Wes Moore is clearly saying here.
It's not quite as effective as the movement itself. I think that the movement,
he's just not listening. He's not listening. And at that point, when we're doing politics, you just gotta go like, hey man, I said what I said multiple times. It's up to you to engage. If you're not listening to what I'm saying, if you're not engaging what I'm saying, then agree to disagree. You got to move on. There's no point in hammering the very distinct, clear point if this person's not engaging with it. He just wants you to agree with his own point. Let's move on to this. This is a waste of my time.
Get to the chair in 3, 2, 1. Hello.
Hi. Oh, Sean.
Wes, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. So what I was really struggling with was when you said that we fought for voices for representation, and that's kind of my whole grub with this, is that how are we supposed to affect policy changes with our vote when our vote has been so diluted over time? I mean, the 1929 Act that I'm referring to.
Yeah.
So, I think about the Constitution. I think about, I'm a big history nerd. So, one of the only things that Washington mentioned in the convention was that we need one representative for every 30,000. We're well off of that. We're at like 700,000 people for one representative.
I agree. This is one of the things that I have something in mind in the future. I'm not going to spoil what I have coming up, but I do plan to talk to a guest about how uncapping the House of Representatives is probably something we should really consider doing.
And so how is my vote supposed to inform anything with a representative that cannot hear me? And that is why we have an oligarchy. That is why we have a system of so many trying to be heard, and then just only a few out of this actually get to dictate policy. What is your solution to that?
I think the solution is we need people who are making better policies, because who made those policies? People that were sitting in power.
Yeah.
Right. When
that was 100 years ago.
Yeah, but think about it. It was also 100 years ago. I was considered 3/5 of a man.
Well,
I mean, so my point is, we needed people.
I don't know, 100 years ago,
but maybe not 100.
Yeah,
but what I'm saying, but this has been an
women
evolution.
didn't have voting rights in 1929.
That's exactly
so I'm not
right.
saying it's perfect,
Correct.
but it was definitely more representative per constituent. And I'm saying we're in 2026. We can get to a better place. And I don't see any leader actually trying to actually have a meaningful vote. They say go vote, but what is that going to do when you're basically, and it's almost like you're giving your consent to this broken system.
So I would actually argue that your voting is not saying I'm consenting to the system. Your voting is saying I'm participating in making the system better.
Okay.
Because
I think if there's a candidate that wanted to fix it, then I guess I would do that. But I haven't heard anyone mention the 1929.
So just because someone doesn't do the exact policy solution that you're advocating for, that means you're not going to input a vote to improve the system overall. That's stupid. I just don't understand this frame of thinking. It's my way or the highway. This is some very selfish way of thinking. A society is a machine that needs every single cog to be utilized to ensure that it's working as efficiently as possible. If people are not voting, then the people who are voting are going to dictate how society flows. If you want to move towards a direction of eventually putting out a policy solution of changing the House of Representatives, then you have to be active in the system. That's just how it has to be. Imagine if people gave up on civil rights. Then the ones who's going to want it to keep it that way, the racist white dudes, they're going to keep on voting against it. People have lost pride. They have lost ambition. They have lost the willing to fight. They just live in this kind of, dare I say, privileged lifestyle that only a radical immediate change is the worthwhile fighting for, or at the very least is the only solution that is worthwhile having. That's not how America was built. It was not built overnight.
An active, you know what I mean? So
I mean, perfect example. Just a couple weeks ago, right before the Supreme Court took out the Voting Rights Act and did what I consider to be the greatest form of political redlining that we have seen in our nation and probably in generations. The day before they did that, you know what I did in Maryland? I actually signed the Voting Rights Act of Maryland for 2026, which made sure that we were actually fortified and certifying voting rights and enfranchisement for everybody inside of the state, no matter what the Supreme Court does, no matter how the Supreme
What does that
Court
mean exactly?
So basically, it's making sure that however the Supreme Court wants to try to disenfranchise and rig rules and rig lines, that in the state of Maryland, that we have an independent elections board.
Okay.
That the ruling of the independent elections board is what we are going to follow, and we're not going to follow the rulings of, to your point, a king or someone sitting in Washington.
But I would just, again, I would say that with the poor representation with this system that we're already in, how does someone actually try to get more representation? Like we have a consensus.
Vote for representatives to advocate for policy change, as well as you become an advocate at the same time. People can't read your fucking mind.
I can't pronounce it.
Census
every 10 years. And that is usually when those kind of changes happen. And so that's coming up in 2030. I see there's one movement called Uncap the House. I don't know if you've heard of it, but yeah, like I don't see much support coming in from people like yourself, like people in power.
But and I would say, so
no, this is a good question. Instead of like whining and complaining like how we get things done, because how we get things done is very obvious. you should be asking, why aren't you supporting it? That's a better question. Do you support this proposal? Why do you or don't you support the proposal? Being this black pill mind, like nothing will ever change, is whiny and pathetic. But being strong and resolute in the proposal you're advocating for, and then the person with influence right in front of you, giving the opportunity for them to address your concerns. And if they don't, well, you could tell them off right in front of you. That's how you go. Now, to be fair, a lot of people are not able to do this, but if I'm going to come on this platform and advocate for what I advocate, then I'm going to tell you exactly how you need to act if you're going to be put in these positions in front of politicians of people of power. So listen to me. Thank you.
I actually have called for saying we need national redistricting reform.
Okay.
And I think that the census is actually going to be the appropriate time to be able to do it, because right now there is a system where you have politicians who are picking their voters and not voters who are picking their politicians. But you know, the only way that's going to happen is if we actually have a Congress who is going to get national redistricting reform done.
Right.
And the only way that's going to happen is if we actually choose to lean into the process. That will never happen if we then choose to opt out.
But how do you actual candidates
Sorry, we got
solve
the
those
pause
problems?
there. You've been voted out.
No problem. No. Thank you.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you. Thank you.
If you'd like to be the next debater, please get to the chair in 3, 2, 1. Oh, you're good. You're good. She wanted
There you
it.
go. Hi, sorry.
Great. Wes. Nice
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Okay, right. So I am a citizen now, born and brought up in England. I always used to vote Conservative. Came to the US. Never in my life, and I was born in 1981, has anyone ever told me that I'm less than because I'm a woman and a woman of color. Never in my life. Moving to America, I was told, oh, you have to vote Democrat because, you know, this is what's happening. And yes, I was fully behind Bernie Sanders and Kamala Harris at the last election. But then I got pissed off. 2 years they sat on the overturning of Roe and Wade when they had the White House. Is it really that difficult to have an independent health authority to make women's bodily rights a priority? Why does it have to be written into law? Because I thought that the US was the leader of the free world.
I love this question, and I tell you, and honestly, and I love your story too.
Thank you.
Oh man, the typical politician. I love this question. If I was gonna do politics, can I play this game? I can. I watched the House of Cards, and I thought about it. It's so easy to lie and manipulate people and use, you know, flowery language to make you seem like you're more important to me than you actually are. And maybe this is genuine from Wes Moore. I have no idea if it is or not, but I do find some of these repeatable language of, I love this question and I love your story. Like every politician says this, or at the very least, I don't really hear Republican ones say this. I know Democratic ones say this. I don't know. I find it interesting.
Actually the son of an immigrant single mom.
Okay.
And one of the things that I just love and appreciate about the evolution of this country is that can be a place where stories like hers, yours, and mine can actually be real, right?
Right.
And I take the example where you're talking about for reproductive health as can actually be real, right?
Right.
Is she crying? Hold on.
This can be a place where stories like hers, yours, and mine can actually be real, right?
Right.
And I take
She could just be fixing her makeup, or she could be getting emotional. You know what I'm thinking about right now? I'm thinking about it's effective, but is it genuine? I don't know. Maybe I have to rewrite my psychology on how I feel, how I approach people, because being genuine, polite, being empathetic are just useful tools to be someone that is at the very least perceived as for the people. She could be just fixing her makeup, but I can also see, like, it seems like he's listening to me. He seems like he cares. He seems like he's trying to connect with me. I feel like I'm in the wrong. I think Wes Moore's in the right. Maybe I should change how I approach things. I try to be more understanding of people, but the emotional resonance is difficult.
the example where you're talking about for reproductive health as one great example. One of the other things that I love about the way that the structure can actually work here is even when the federal government makes a decision that I think is ridiculous and really bad, that states actually do have authority too. Because right after Roe v. Wade fell, and basically something that was the law of the land for decades, that they then turned around and said, well, actually women do not have a right to choose what happens with their body. After our election, and one thing I campaigned on, and what I got done in the first months after I was elected as governor, is I said, we're gonna make sure that in Maryland, that does not stand. And actually, we made protection of reproductive health part of our state's constitution, so that no matter what the Supreme Court says in the state of Maryland, women are actually going to be the ones who are in charge of what happens with their bodies. And that right is going to be protected inside of my state. And I don't care what the Supreme Court says on that.
So may I ask you a question? In Maryland, have you made it mandatory to have sex education to show that the disadvantages of what contraception do, like especially oral contraception? Because one of the reasons why the far right are opposing it is because there are children having organ failure because they're popping, the morning after like Skittles because they're not educated enough.
And that's actually another great example where that's where I do think that elections do have consequences, because, for a lot of things when it comes to education, it is done on a local level, but we actually
Contraception they're putting in their mouth? I didn't know that. I'm not hip.
do have education for all of our kids about, and also, by the way, looking at things like family planning. So while we also did things like making sure that reproductive health is now in our state's constitution, we also have family planning and family planning education that takes place for the people of our state. And so elections do matter in that account, because we can both focus on the education for our young people, making sure they know the rights that they have, but also making sure those rights are then reinforced and that those rights are going to be protected no matter what happens on the federal side.
We got to pause there. You've been voted out by the majority. It goes by fast.
Lovely to meet you too. Thank you so much.
Honestly, I think that was a valuable conversation. I was being a little too harsh on like the kind of repeatable rhetoric. Maybe it's at skill, maybe it's genuine. I don't know, but it seems like she did come up there to really try to talk to the politician and understand what they're thinking and get their point of view. And I respect it.
Okay, if you'd like to be the next debater, please get to the chair in 3, 2, 1.
Hi, how you doing? Bayon.
Wes,
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
So we're talking about what shapes policy more effectively than my individual vote. I'd like to give you a list of things that I believe have a greater weight in terms of shaping policy. Big money in politics, corporate super PACs, billionaires, donors, special interest groups, lobbyists, the Fox propaganda network that rattles off 24-hour nonsense all day long, foreign interest groups like the Israelis and the Arab states, and the Citizens United ruling that flooded our entire system with more money than anyone can imagine. So when you talk about having greater weight in shaping policy, I believe that all of those policies are well shaped months and months and months ahead before any person in this room puts a ballot into a box. I'd love to hear your take.
So one, I couldn't.
I like the question. I don't agree, because in a vacuum, the value of a vote is more important than the value of money. However, I'm going to let Wes Moore answer, and then I'll respond.
Not agree with you more. I think Citizens United was maybe the worst decision that the Supreme Court does, and it needs to be overturned. I think that this role of big money and both the big corporations and also these billionaires, I think that their ability to now somehow think that their donation equates to voice is nonsense, and I think it has to be addressed. And I think that if you look at my story, the reason that I know that the individual vote does matter is because I look at my journey. Because this is the first elected office I ever ran for. I mean, there was no corporate interest who made me.
And that's very important. That's important.
No PAC who made me. In fact, the political parties, the Democratic Party, put millions of dollars to try to stop me when they saw that our campaign was gaining momentum, despite the fact that when I first started running, I was polling 1%. And I realized this, though. Y'all can put whatever money you can against what we're getting done. You could try to put whatever money you did against our movement, and they put millions of dollars against it. But you know who they couldn't stop? Who? The people of Maryland.
Right.
Because the people of Maryland were the ones who made me the governor. It was not a political party. It definitely was not a corporate interest. And it was definitely not a billionaire.
Did you work on small donor funding networks?
Absolutely. And
community grassroots organizations?
And that was the thing that carried us, right? I mean, the thing that actually carried us more was that when we...
So much of this Jubilee episode is Wes Moore building his profile. And I wonder if there is a conversation regarding Jubilee on these Jubilee episodes, basically giving the opportunity of these politicians to show what they got. And I feel like there's been a pattern of politicians who've done that. Not necessarily saying that's wrong, but that's obviously what Wes Moore has been doing thus far in this video, in this episode. So in lieu of answering the question, he showcases his own ability to, be chosen by the people despite the money of the rich elites. Here's what I would say to answer the question. The reason why, and I do think it's a problem. I'm very, very not black pill, but I'm very concerned with like the rising power of the elites, especially in this current fascist government. The way that these elites are trying to influence voting or influence elections is to either buy a vote or prevent a vote from happening. So ultimately, just because money is being used, it's a tool. It is not the power. It is the tool to acquire the power. The power is the vote itself. They put a bunch of money to ensure a certain candidate wins and putting them in front of as much people as possible to ensure that that candidate gets voted in. So at that point, your vote is still what matters most. Or they put enough things out there to defame a candidate so you don't choose that candidate, putting enough money to take the power away from the vote so you either feel like that this is not a good candidate or you feel apathetic enough to not vote at all. So ultimately, to answer your question, yes, money in politics is very problematic, but ultimately money, all it's trying to do is to buy or stop the vote. So to answer your question, voting is still the most important thing, and you can't let these big money corporations, these elites, pay your vote to either exist for a certain candidate or not exist. You got to vote your heart. You got to vote based on what you think is right and not let these people try to influence it. Now, the question of billionaires, paying off candidates with like lobbying groups and endorsements, that's a little bit different, but ultimately that person doesn't get put into office without a vote. Okay, let's skip ahead.
More about this big money. My next surrounding claim is bad politics thrive when you don't participate.
This is the same thing you brought up. This is literally the same question. It seems like what he's trying to do is rally people to vote, which I appreciate and I think is valuable.
All right, if you'd like to be the first debater for this claim, please get to the chair in 3, 2, 1.
How you doing,
Governor?
I'm Wes. Nice to see you.
How you doing?
It's a pleasure to see you.
Yes. Miss Lips.
Miss Lips, nice to see you.
Yes. I would like to talk about your beef against reparations. And just want to clear some things. In 1968, a comedian named Dick Gregory won the election for presidency against Nixon. And voting, everyone voted. I know a lot of my people in Chicago voted. That's where I'm from, South Side. And unfortunately, he did not win against Nixon. And it kind of damaged a lot of my family in the voting because they was very dedicated to voting. They knew their rights in voting, and they knew the problems that was going to come with voting. With Nixon came with crack, cocaine, heroin, and many other things that hurt our community. I'm sorry. One of those things, I lost so many people through that. And I think that our votes did not count. And I felt that it hurt generations to come, even till now. I lost my mother to drug addiction, and I lost my ex to drug addiction. So what is your take on making sure that our vote will count and that corruption will get solved or acknowledged?
I'm gonna allow Wes Moore to answer this. And I do think one important thing I feel like people need to understand is that there are forces that are at this point very apparent, very clear. They want to convince you not to vote. They want to do whatever it takes to retain power, acquire power, and make you feel apathetic to vote so they can you have as least amount of people as possible to choose in certain candidates. That is the current MAGA strategy. And it's unfortunate. I wasn't really alive. I was too young to really be there during the Nixon era. But it's unfortunate that we have periods in history and periods in current modern history where terrible people are getting put in and people are being affected. And I do think there is a loss of humanity with like online politics, that people's lives are being affected in real time. And this is why I don't have any sympathy to MAGA, especially like the diehard ones, especially the ones in power, because they don't care. They're laughing when people are dying. They're laughing when they're throwing innocent people in these fucking concentration camps. They don't care about the people. They want to take away rights. They want to empower themselves. So I think this is a powerful question. And I think this also gives not only Wes Moore, but the people the opportunity to realize that politics is not just a game. It's real life with people's lives being affected in real time.
First, I'm very sorry. If there's one thing I know about the history of this country, is the history of this country has been deeply uneven and deeply unfair for families like yours, for families like mine.
Yes.
And to your point, there's no one who needs to remind any of us that there are answers to this question that this country has still not answered. I also know this, and this is why policy does matter, is we come from a history and a legacy when oppression and segregation and institutionalized racism wasn't just condoned, it was the law of the land.
Okay.
That we are literally a century ago when we had Klansmen openly walking through the streets, being welcomed into the White House,
Yes.
when we had people being lynched and people who were just simply trying to get the right to vote who had to stare down police dogs,
And this is why I
fire
believe
hoses.
reparations will help. It will actually, because there's no justice to that. We cannot lock those.
Reparations will never be a winning policy. I'm sorry. I've thought about it before, but at this point in America's history, we are too far past that period for reparations to make sense. But I do think America should have given reparations to the people after the period of slavery. They should have, and there was like farmland that was supposed to be given to slaves, freed slaves. Reparations probably should have been given to people who suffered under the crazy, disgusting era of Jim Crow. Like at that period when Black people, I'm sure people have heard the conversation where Black businesses were being burnt down. That's the perfect opportunity to give reparations. Now, I don't think it's happening, and I don't think there will be any energy for it. I mean, when we put out a policy platform called DEI, and that's being used as a racial slur, where anytime someone thinks DEI, they think a Black person gets an unqualified position, even though that's not how DEI works. DEI is a platform for all minorities, including women, disabled, and veterans, that gives them opportunity to be seen equally as much as the average white Nepo baby. And it's qualified people getting the opportunity to be seen just like other qualified people that these white guys are friends with. Now, there has been other specific locations and businesses that take DEI too far, and they have this white racism complex where they think that all white people are racist, and you can condemn that. But the mass majority of it were qualified people getting qualified positions. But even that was used and bastardized by these racist piece of garbage MAGA people. So yeah, reparations just will never happen. I'm curious to see Wes Moore's answer to it, though.
Plans up. Yeah. We cannot go back and change the past. But what we can do, we could open up a trust for those families that was taken away. And slavery happened. It did happen. And there are studies. I know you said something about studies, but I have an Ancestry.com study. Why can't we use that? Yeah. Why can't we use 21andMe for that study? That's a study. Our DNA is coded. Is in every.
He's gonna have to answer this very carefully.
Record.
But he has
there
to be
should
on
be
it.
no problems. Yeah. Why are we not getting our reparations?
And my issue with a study is we have done a lot of studies. I need action. And I oftentimes feel what ends up happening when it comes to policy is when there's things that we don't want to tackle, what do? We do long-term studies. If someone is telling me right now that my child is attending a school that is not preparing them for the world, I do not want to hear you tell me, then that's why I'm going to do a 10-year commission on it. I do not want to hear you tell me, if I say I can't find housing that I can afford, I don't want to hear somebody tell me that's why I'm going to do a 5-year study.
So why should we vote if we can't get our reparations?
Oh no, but I think the thing that's actually going to help us to be able to get to the work of repair actually is voting. Because you know why we have not gotten to this work of repair long term, and not just individual states, as a nation, is because we have elected officials who have not allowed us to do that. And so when I'm talking about the work of repair, that urgently needs to happen. For example, the stuff that we have done within our state, where we have made the largest investments in our HBCUs in the history of the state of Maryland. The fact that we have done things like the largest mass pardon in the history of the United States of America. And let's be clear about who that most directly impacted, because the war on drugs and the war on cannabis has been used as a cudgel against our community. And so let's be clear about who that most benefited.
I understand.
But what I'm saying is that
Oh, this is going to be one of those questions that MAGA is going to use to repeat, because he did not outright say reparations is not possible. But for individuals like her, she's probably not satisfied that he didn't say that it is possible. Ah, man, I hate questions like this where it's just like, it's not possible, but there's no good answer that will satisfy both sides. It's kind of like the abortion conversation. There's no answer you can give that will satisfy both sides. Overall, Wes Moore's answer is pretty good, all things considered. He's focusing on getting things done for the Black community, but he can't answer this question as a politician. Now, for me, I would answer the fucking question. It's just not happening. That's just the truth. Well, what needs to happen, though, is we need to fix these communities. And we can't fix these communities if the people who want these communities to be fixed don't vote. They want you not to vote. They want you to suffer. They want you to be poor. They want you to be violent. They want to call you an ape. You can't allow them to do this. You can't allow them to take the power. They want a very specific type of country. So even though reparations just won't happen because the majority of America just doesn't want it to happen, we could still move in the positive direction for our community. We can't let them destroy it. I would focus on really understanding that the alternative to not voting, the alternative of giving up, is the exact same people who destroyed our community destroying it again and going even further. The less participation from the Black community, the better for them. That's how I'd focus answering the question.
the people who are making that decision, particularly on the federal level, these are people who were elected. And so if they are either moving or not moving, how do we think that we're going to be able to get more momentum? The way we get more momentum and the way you address bad policies is you get people, different people in those seats who can better address those policies. The history of this country and the brutality that we have seen within it, it is real. And it is something that has to be contended with. But my point is this, is that we will never be able to contend with that if we continue to disengage. Because do you know who does not want us to disengage? Our ancestors.
Exactly.
Do you know who does not want us to disengage? The people who came before us. Do you know what they want us to do? They want us to use our voice. They want us never to lose the power that they fought for. They were the ones who earned that. They were the ones who stared down police dogs, not us.
Yes.
And how disrespectful would it be to them to turn around and say, well, we understand how hard you had to sacrifice. We understand the fact that we had things like unfair appraisal values, which led to the greatest wealth thefts that we've seen in our society's history. But you know what? Do you know how I'm going to respond to that? I'm just going to disengage. What are we saying to them if that's our response?
So why did you
Sorry, I
veto
have to jump in there. You've been voted out.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Say
Thank
that.
you. You too, Mr.
Oh,
Thank
she
you.
wanted to ask a question about him vetoing reparations. That's why she came up there. Interesting. Well, I can't answer for Wes Moore, so.
All right. If you would like to be the next debater, please get to the chair in 3, 2, 1.
Oh, the jap up.
Thank you. All right, first, before I start anything, I need to just say one thing, brother. You look really good. You're talking really amazingly, and you're doing amazing today. I want you to know that what you're standing up for, what you've done so far for my people, and also the people of Maryland, is absolutely phenomenal. I don't want to disregard any of that work you put down. Okay. And the people that came before you would be very proud of what you've done so far.
Thank you.
I just want to highlight something that you said that sort of triggered me. You said a few things, but I think the biggest one is that our ancestors would be very disappointed if we chose not to vote. And I think that that's a little disingenuous, because think about 1790.
What do you mean it's disingenuous? If you don't vote, then the people who gain power are the people that you're fighting against. I need people to understand politics is not going to change unless you participate in the system. It's a democracy, for goodness sake. We don't have an oligarchy. We can't choose a king, even though MAGA wants to. I just don't. What is this energy? What are you mad at? Who are you mad at? If you want to live in a fucking communist country, go move to China, bro. I'm sorry. Who are you mad at? What are you angry for? What is wrong with what he said?
1971 in August, the Haitian Revolution, what happened? They literally congregated and said, we are going to burn the houses and cut every slave master's head. Think about Black.
What the fuck are you trying to prove here? Are you saying we gotta kill people? What's the point of bringing up this example? Oh my God, bro. Please don't tell me we got a fucking anarchist, bro. I'm so tired of these people.
They literally congregated and said, we are going to burn the houses and cut every slave master's head. Think about Black Wall Street. What happened during Black Wall Street? We literally united and said, hey, look at us. We can build our own system. We can make our own thing. Yeah. We don't have to be part of the wicked system that is America, because what was America founded on? Rotten soil, on the heads of multiple millions of indigenous people. And I don't mean to have so much energy for you, brother.
No, listen, I appreciate it.
But I also think it's also disingenuous, because we recognize like the correlation between Malcolm X and Martin Luther King. There's a section where they both realized that the system was too wicked for them to actually repair it. You know, unfortunately, my brother earlier came by and said we have lobbyists. We have people. There's a 2014 study that was done by Benjamin Price and Martin Giles. They discovered that the average American actually has no direct say in public policy. What does that translate to? That literally means that every single one of these people's votes does not matter at all, because the money does not flow to their pockets. But
this is such a simplistic understanding of politics, bro. This is what creates voter apathy. Your individual vote, of course, your individual vote doesn't matter. There's millions of people in the world, in America. Of course, your individual vote doesn't matter. It's all about galvanizing the vote. It's all about everybody participating. That's why MAGA wants you to stop voting. And you're just helping that. You're not helping the situation. You're bringing up the periods of time in history that were awful, of course. And then a lot of time was taken to fight for rights, civil rights, the right to vote. And we're still fighting for rights. We're still fighting for equality. And you just want to give up? Or do you want to leave? What is your proposal? Give up or leave? Because I really hope you're not suggesting something even more nefarious. The only solution forward is moving forward. You can leave the country if you want to. You can give up on the system. You can create your own country. I don't give a fuck. For all the Black Americans that live in this country, that want to live in America and create a better America, the strongest, most powerful nation that intrinsically supposed to embrace liberal values of freedom and individuality. In order for that to continuously change and move in the right directions, we can't give up and just hand them the fucking country. I just don't get it, bro. Sometimes I just don't understand.
Pockets of the oligarch. That is something that we actually have to highlight. And because you are now the oligarch, you're the man in power, brother. You don't see me. And you represent also.
And now he's the oligarch because he got voted in. So what is the point of elections if you're just going to be the oligarch? How do you change America? What is the suggestion? Destroy America? Destroy capitalism? Destroy liberalism? Turn into a communist country and then destroy America? Like, I don't get the solution. I just hear complaining and fear mongering.
A small minority of the country, because the people that actually need to be heard do not reside in Maryland. They do not reside in that northeast area where everything is blue, where my vote, even if I wrote red, is going to be blue. You know, they reside in the South, they reside in Alabama, they reside in Selma. I think it's disingenuous for us not to highlight that point. And that's my speech. I'm sorry for having so much energy.
No, look, listen, and not only do I appreciate your energy, I honor it.
Thank you.
No, honor it.
Yes,
because
Oh, man,
I know it's real.
Sometimes I'm
and I
like,
know it's
can
just
I be a politician? I can't. I do. Okay. This is a learning opportunity. Maybe I'm too young. Maybe I'm still in the learning process of like really meeting people where they're at. I also appreciate the energy. I appreciate the passion. The words are nonsense, but let me see how Wes Moore responds.
And I look at what's happening right now.
What is happening right now? Put words to it.
I look at the fact that when they passed that,
we need words.
When Congress, I understand. When Congress passed that HR1, that big beautiful bill.
That's beautiful. Okay.
Which passed by one vote.
Under whose presidency?
under the Trump presidency.
Okay. I just the reason why is because I'm airing
We know what he's okay. I'm pissing me off. Hey man, what's more? You got patience. Keep on going.
this out this way is because I oftentimes see when it comes to politicians, not to cut you off, I'm gonna let you finish your point. Don't forget it, please.
You are cutting him off, but continue.
I oftentimes see politicians sort of weaseling their ways outside of what the proletariat wants to hear. So I want to.
He's literally explaining what he's talking about. Okay, whatever. I agree, but that's not what Wes Moore is doing. It's just like I've spoken to politicians that weasel their way out, and I've seen politicians that weasel their way out. Wes Moore has not weaseled that. He's trying to. I don't know what his point is, but he's trying to articulate the importance and value of what it means to change the country. I am curious on his response because he literally just started and you fucking interrupted him, so I have no idea where he's going.
Really make sure that you put words.
So I would actually say that even that framing is saying that this should be put on a person. And actually, I don't think that's the case. I think that's making it too easy.
Oh, what do you mean?
Because when you look at what happened, even with that own individual bill, right? Do you know at the same time that we were giving billionaires tax cuts, that we cut people off of healthcare?
Ooh.
The same time that we were giving tax cuts to people who have private jets, they cut food for our children.
But that's wonderful.
But I do think this is an important point.
Right, okay, I'm sorry. I'm gonna let you land.
No, but this is an important
You're not.
point
You
because
keep on interrupting.
That happened because of an election result.
I disagree,
That happened because because of an election result.
I disagree.
That happened.
Brother.
What do you mean you disagree? Trump won. A bunch of Republicans won. Yo, again, what do these people think politics is? It frustrates me. What do they want? Tell me what you want. What do you want? Because the majority of Congress were Republicans and they voted to pass the bill. The president who wanted this fucking bill in the first place won the election. What do you disagree with? I'm frustrated. I'm frustrated about your energy now. Because I don't know what you want. What do you want? What do you want? What do you think should happen? How the hell has this bill got passed if it wasn't an election result putting these motherfuckers in power?
That happened because the people who were sitting in these seats, they decided
So
this was okay.
was it an election vote that made it so that Obama was bombing and droning everybody in the.
What does that have to do with what we're talking? All right, I'm dead, bro. I'm fucking. This is such a fucking pivot. This is a crazy pivot. Is he a MAGA supporter? He must be. He must be MAGA. He must be MAGA. Because there's no way this motherfucker pivoted from a bill talking about how it's cutting people from their aid to talking about Obama and drone strikes. The pivot was insane. And this motherfucker tried to play the high ground. He tried to play the moral high ground. Fuck off, bro. Fuck off. Fuck off. Oh, the proletariat always, weasels the way out of the question. You're weaseling your way out of addressing the point that is being made right in front of you and pivoted to Obama. And why the fuck did you bring up Obama, by the way? Is this 2008? Yo, I'm getting triggered.
Middle East? Was that an election point? Were we not supposed to vote for Obama, the first black president, brother? Because we knew he bombed Iran, bombed everybody in the Middle East, damn near?
Well, first,
There's so much misinformation. So much. This guy's MAGA. This guy's black MAGA. I guarantee he's black MAGA. I lost all respect. All respect is out the fucking window. Because that was such a crazy pivot that had nothing to do with what was being talked about. Wes Moore, this is your perfect opportunity to deal with these bad faith pieces of garbage. Go ahead. Go crazy. This is how you wanted to come up here. You got to deal with these people. You got to deal with them.
I don't think we should be voting for anybody because of how they look or their background. The question is, do they have our interest in mind?
Did Obama have our interest in mind?
Well, one, I think if you look at a lot of things that happened under the Obama administration.
Did George Bush have our interest in mind?
Motherfucker, pivot. He just fucking interrupts and pivots. Wes, you can't play the nice politician. This is my battleground. I'm not playing fucking nice with this guy. I don't do nice. Wes Moore, you do nice. I don't do nice. Good luck.
Yeah, no, but it's okay. But these elections and who sits in these seats does matter, because whether we choose to engage or not engage, here's what's going to happen every 2 years. These people in Congress are up for a vote. What's going to happen every 4 years is you're going to have governors and you're going to have the president up for a vote. What's going to happen every 6 years is you're going to have senators up for a vote, whether we engage or don't engage, right? These elections are going to happen.
I agree.
And they are going to make decisions on our behalf, in our name, with our money. And we want to make sure that the decisions that they are making are actually reflective of our values.
And I want to highlight something, right? So are you familiar with the scandal that happened in San Francisco?
I'm not.
Well, basically,
Here we go. This is Black MAGA. This is very clearly Black MAGA.
what happened was, and I have their names here so I don't mess it up.
Okay.
Forgive me. Tina Lamb and Michael Clerks, first generation immigrants, basically built their way up to saving $90,000 to purchase a cul-de-sac in a rich neighborhood. It was called the Presidio Terrace. And essentially what we found out because of that situation is that the residents of Presidio Terrace basically reached out to the U.S. Senator, and the U.S. Senator went to the board and basically was like, hey, you guys invested $90,000 to buy this land legally. They had the contracts, had the paperwork, and what happened? The supervisor and the board they literally heard the U.S. Senator, and they basically were like, hey, you cannot have this property anymore. You cannot be here anymore. And they forced them, they refunded them the $9,000 that they used to basically, they brick and mortared themselves to get, essentially. And so my point is, I don't necessarily think it's a matter of us really looking to get people in power when we know that their pockets are going to always be lined up. You serve your own interest in your
fucking yap. Filibuster and yap. Filibuster and yap. That's all that was. Filibuster and yap. This one situation means that I'm correct about all politicians. So all politicians are bad. That means what Trump is doing is not as bad because all of them are bad. Go fuck yourself, man. This guy's triggering me. This guy fucking playing these weird fucking games. Wes Moore, you gotta pump up the energy. I need the Isaiah Martin energy right now. I need Isaiah Martin level energy because this guy is bad faith.
family's interest before mine, unfortunately. And I hate to say, like, that sounds a little radical, and I don't mean to come at your character if that's not your character. But that's what it is. If you can't eat anymore, can you serve?
It's not my character.
I understand, but if you can't,
and I'll just say this: let me just share with you about my character and how I view that.
Okay.
Do you know the first thing that I did when we came on board was that not only did I sign an anti-corruption executive order, the first executive order I ever signed. Also, what I did for everything, all of my family's assets, everything that we have, I also then put into a blind trust because I never wanted anyone in the state of Maryland to ever think that I was doing anything that was benefiting me. And not only did I do that, I signed legislation that says if anyone ever wants to be governor of Maryland from here on out, they have to do the same thing because we need to make sure there's transparency and we need to make sure that people know that the decisions that are being made by people in my seat from here on out, never questions the decisions that are being made. And you know why too? Especially right now, when we have a Congress that is trading stocks. Despite having insider information, when we have a president of the United States who in the first quarter of this year alone has now done over 3,700 stock trades, that averages out to about 600 stock trades a single day. I don't.
There you go. Pump up.
Are you a day trader? Like when we are watching that, when we are watching a president who has made billions of dollars, when we are watching someone who is literally starting wars.
I don't support Trump at all, brother. So
but my point is this: that our ability to be able to deal with that, our ability to be able to address that. When I look in the state of Maryland, had that election not happened, do you think that we would have legislation in Maryland that says for every governor from here on out, they need to put their assets in a blind trust? Had we not had elections not mattered in the state of Maryland?
Oh, this is the energy I like, Wes. Come on. This guy's giving you negative energy the entire time, pivoting, just rambling and filibustering. Time to hold feet to fire. Okay, bet. This is what happens when you don't vote. This, and this. Donald Trump is evil and corrupt. Correct, objectively. One of the most corrupt president of our lifetime. And you talking about my character. This is what I did. This, and this. This is proof. This is what making sure that Maryland doesn't become a corrupt piece of shit like Trump. Let's go, Wes Moore. He even said a cuss word. Asses. Oh, let's go.
Would we have a situation where now in Maryland, I have banned prediction trading for anyone who works for the state of Maryland? Because no, you cannot do prediction market trading when you're dealing with insider information.
Waiting to respond.
And I just feel like for every instance that you mentioned,
he wants to
which
cut you
again,
off.
I did not know about this incident. But my question back to you is
now
then
San
this.
Francisco. That's a majority Democratic.
Pivot. I'm not going to address any of your point. No, fuck your point. I want to focus on my anecdote. I need to prove that all you guys are bad. I have to prove it. Fuck the system, right? Come on, Wes Moore. Fuck his pivot. Get back to, bro. Fuck this anecdote that I don't even believe your characterization.
And that's real.
And it's
I'm sorry, we got to pause there.
Yeah, get the fuck out of here.
And I guess and I know the rules.
Because I got some initiatives I'm trying to work on.
And I would love to
Fred
talk about
Hampton's
that.
a big deal, brother.
Fred Hampton's a very big.
I
Fred
think,
Hampton is a very.
Get the fuck out of the chair. Get out of this chair. This guy, I don't trust this guy at all. Wes Moore, you're giving him way too much credence. This is bad, bro. So many politicians just don't know how terrible some of these people are. They are not doing things in the better interest of like America as a whole. They just want to prove the entire system is corrupt and then destroy it. They want to destroy America. All right, let's move on to the next thing. Oof.
We should talk. Yes, sir.
Wes Moore, stop. This guy's not your fucking friend. Oh my God. These politicians are so ignorant of how politics works. Oh my, why is there such a separation from like mainstream politicians and like, I guess this is online politics. I hate differentiating it because all of it's the same fucking thing. But the distinction, the fact that these guys can't identify bad faith actors is frustrating. He is not your friend. You were talking about Trump and he started talking about Obama. This guy is not your friend.
Yes, sir. My final surrounding claim is not voting doesn't protest corruption. It protects it.
Oh my God, all your fucking claims are the same fucking thing. All right, let's move on to like some of the most replayed.
In violent crime within the state of Maryland, it wasn't because of just politicians. It was because we chose to work with everybody. It's because we chose to work with community groups. It's because we chose to actually work with our local elected officials. It's because we chose to work with our local law enforcement. It's because we chose to work with the elders and the communities and the businesses. It's because we chosen to do things like the largest mass pardon.
So what I hear in there,
You
a lot
gotta
of that
stop
is
there. You've been voted out by the majority.
okay, great talking to you.
All right, if you'd like to be the next
He only
debater,
gets to that
please get to the
depth
chair
of
in 3, 2, 1.
Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you.
She wanted to dap up.
So you say that not voting, it doesn't protect it, but
It protects corruption.
it protects corruption. I think voting is corruption. You go to the ballots and you see names and
True facts. Voting is corruption. What is democracy? True. Voting is corruption. America is corrupt. All countries are corrupt. Everything is corrupt. All of us should just die. That is my takeaway from such a stupid fucking statement. Oh, man, I can't. Sometimes I can't. Sometimes my energy is too negative for me to address some stupid fucking things that are being said. And sometimes you got to be brutally honest to the stupidity. We got to stop pretending that all questions, all statements are equal. Like sometimes stupid things are just said. But all right, Wes Moore, how you gonna handle this one?
all you see is Democrat, Republican, Democrat, Republican. There's nothing else you can vote for. You're either red or blue. And it feels like if my policies don't match with one or the other,
That means it's corrupt for sure, 100%. And I want to be very clear. I am an advocate for voter reform. I advocate for approval voting and star votings to make third parties more. I also am a big non-fan of the two-party system. I want to add a third party. I would honestly advocate for a multi-party, but I think that's stretching it. 3 parties, I think, is a safe spot. Left, right, middle. That's what I personally advocate for. So genuinely, I agree with her sentiment that you should have more options and our voting system is not really adherent to your wants as a voter. But saying voting is corrupt is stupid as shit. Like, it's just a stupid thing to say.
my vote's not going to count. It doesn't matter. And I don't understand how I can be a part of a system that's corrupt.
Yeah. No, I listen. And I've been very much on the record on this, where if you look at the fastest growing political party in this country, you know what it is? Independents.
Yeah.
It's people who are saying, I don't rock with the Democrats. I don't rock with the Republicans. And I'm being very honest. I think anybody who just swallows a party ideology is not thinking hard enough, because I don't think there's a party that has the market cornered on good ideas or a market cornered on bad ideas. I think about the policies that have truly harmed families like mine. And the truth is,
no, MAGA's evil, but sure, Wes.
Many members of my family, they could not tell you if it was a Democratic author or a Republican author. They could just tell you it was a bad policy. So I do think that there has to be a better way and a better system that we have constructed to be able to actually make sure independent voice is seen, and not just in November, because the problem is that less than 10% of these congressional seats are even competitive. And if you look at some of the races that actually work, they're actually races like mayor's races, which are nonpartisan races where people aren't running as a Democrat or Republican. Now, that being said, I still think when people are having these national elections or these statewide elections, it does matter who sits inside these seats, and not because they're a Democrat or a Republican. I don't give a damn about, frankly, the political party, the political infrastructure, because again, the Democratic Party didn't make me. And so I don't find some, reason or some blinding idea saying like everything that the Democrats do is right. I don't believe that. But what I do know is this, is that the people who sit in these seats, it matters because it's going to impact my life. It's going to impact my family. It's going to impact my community. And I want to make sure that those people, no matter their political party, I want to make sure those people at the end of the day, when those doors are closed, that they see me and they're making decisions based on what is right for me and my family and not what is right for them and their family.
But clearly enough people are voting for these other politicians that they do agree. Like it's 50-50 almost, it seems like, or like it tips the scale a little bit. And that's why we keep going back and forth from like, we revoke a policy, we make a new policy, like every year it's something different. And I feel like, how are we going to get to that position?
That's just not how politics work. We do not change policies like that. That just doesn't happen. That's actually the problem with our system. Republicans don't pass policy. And then they just push out executive orders, which is illegal. Like, I understand most people don't understand politics, but at the same time, people would just be so wrong. That's just not what's happening. And does it go back and forth? Yeah, sure, because there's two parties. Like, of course.
And then we're actually voting for policies versus people, because I don't want to vote for people anymore. I want to actually make a change. And I feel like that's what protests do versus when I'm on a ballot, a paper, and I'm on someone's desk as a number versus I'm on the streets and I'm.
You can like potentially pick policy on ballots too, but what do I know? What? Protesting, yes, let me yell in the ether and hope that you pass a policy even though I didn't choose you to be elected and you're not going to listen to me because the actual person that actually ended up in office actually doesn't give a fuck what I'm saying. True, that's exactly how it works. Facts.
A real number making a real change.
And real talk, that's exactly what I want too. I don't want someone to vote for me because I have a Democrat next to my name. I want someone to vote for me because they feel like my values matches theirs and because I see their family and I want to work on behalf of their family. I think about one of the people, when I announced I was running for re-election, the very first visit that I made when I was governor was actually out to a place called Lonaconing, which is out in Western Maryland. And they were having a water crisis. They had a boil water advisory. So I'm on the phone with their mayor and we're talking and I said, Mr. Mayor, I'm on my way. When I first met him, a guy named Mayor Coburn, who's become a good friend, he shook my hand and he said, do me a favor. He said, turn 360 degrees. So I turned 360 degrees and he looked at me and he said, the only guarantee I can give you is you didn't see a Democrat within 5 miles of anywhere you just looked. But he said, but you know what? You're the first governor that's been here since 1996. And do you know when I first announced that I was running for re-election? Do you know one of the first people that announced that he was going to support me for my re-election was lifelong Republican Mayor Coburn of the town of Lonaconing.
All right, Wes Moore, you're pissing me off by acting like Republicans still exist. To be honest, you're just pissing me off. Oh, fuck is lifelong Republican. Ooh, he brought in the attractive British lady. The current politics framework isn't working for people. All right, I'm done with this, honestly. What do I think of Wes Moore? I think he's an effective politician. I think he adheres to both sides a little too much, though. Simple. Okay. Let's read the comments before we move on. Non-voters rather fly to LA and debate them just to make the time to vote and research. Yo, this wins. This right here, this wins. This is the best comment of all time. This is just the best comment of all time. This is elite. Non-voters would rather fly to LA and debate than just make the time to vote and research a ballot. The truthfulness of this amazing comment cannot be quantified. Matter of fact, I'm even going to make a clip out of this comment right here because I find it hilarious what people are willing to do other than vote and research. The most important thing you could do as a citizen in participating in the American project, you'd rather do anything else. I'm like, yo, I'm so dead. Hey, let me binge watch Love Island instead of just doing like 30 minutes of research and voting, which takes about like 15 minutes right when I get inside. Arguably 5 minutes if there's no line. I'm so dead, bro. I'm so dead. Oh, that was peak. That was peak funny. Okay. So 20 people who don't vote sign up to sit in a circle and vote. Oh, no, you can't. This guy already won. He already won. This is the better comment. I love to see Mom Dami on one of these. Mom Dami has nothing to run for, so he's never going to come on. He's never going to come on. He has nothing to run for. Maybe if he tries to run, can you? I don't know the law in terms of running for other positions as a non-national born citizen, but I can look that up at some point. Not voting is a vote. Why don't they understand that? True. I actually agree to that. Not voting is a vote. Major props to Wes, the current governor, willing to stand in the hot seat is a huge deal. Agreed. I think Wes is a little bit too friendly. And he both sides a little bit too much. But maybe that's the proper strategy to deal with in the current political framework. I'm honest to the fault, and I hate, and I'm like more reactionary. But when I'm talking to people, I tend to be a little bit more polite. But I don't know. I feel like Wes Moore should have been more willing to give the proper energy and being a little bit more honest on how evil MAGA is. But whatever. If voting didn't matter, they wouldn't be trying to actively disenfranchise you. That's what I said. Yeah, a lot of these voters, they know ball.